Hi, my name is Gene Ray. The intent of the slide deck that we put together for the standardization of exchange of non-clinical data, or SEN, is a bioanalytical lab perspective and questions that are being raised, and these are things that we felt it was important perhaps to discuss in meeting program requirements for our sponsors and potential clients. Some of the observations that KCAS noted is that there's different approaches taken by various sponsors. Large pharma have a complete ownership of the process. Smaller pharma tends to have kind of a wait and see approach. So these are some things we do see that varies within the marketplace. Secondly, we don't see much of an industry trend that's emerged currently onto how companies will use SEND in their program. We find that sponsors' needs do vary across the spectrum, as I had mentioned, and that several in-life partners are still in this assessment phase. We'll have to work obviously with in-life groups since they're the ones that are the main driver currently for SEND data sets. On the next slide is kind of an assessment of how KCAS has proceeded along this front. We've completed a systematic review of the various SEND providers. We have recently narrowed down the provider list to a single provider, and that's based on information that we received both from our sponsors and internal recommendations from our SEND team. We will be looking at outsourcing SEND initially. That provides flexibility and to improve the learning curve for KCAS and the in-life and the pharma that would be interfacing along this path. And we would then finally be onboarding a SEND program, possibly as early as next year, using again that single provider in this process. In the next slide, we have kind of a series of operational questions we want to pose. Will pharma be driving the SEND selection process, selecting a preferred provider for SEND, or will they defer to the in-life operations? This could go either way. We see that perhaps the in-life operations would be the main driver, but that may not necessarily be the case. On the next slide, another questions that we were posing: will the bioanalytical CROs need to provide data in SEND, submit the data to sponsors for their incorporation into SEND, or will they submit data to in-life providers for them to incorporate SEND? Obviously, there's many portals for who's going to take ownership on adding their piece to the overall package. This is one series of questions that appears to be different. Large pharma seems to be of the position that all the data would be sent to them and they would incorporate it into SEND since they will have that onboarded within their operations. Moving to the next slide, will sponsors expect the bioanalytical CROs to upload and incorporate non-bioanalytical data? There's several of the data sets that are in these domains for us to send into this package. It appears that it's not the case currently, but if that is the case, KCAS and any bioanalytical lab would need to know that up front so that they are prepared to add any specifics for these domain sets. On slide 7, will the sponsors incorporate SEND in phase during their drug development, or will they defer when the compound is determined as a viable candidate? I think this perhaps is the most viable and important question, because if the project is killed along the way, why expense all the cost for incorporating the data into SEND if not necessary? Speaking to other providers, it appears that it's more advantageous to incorporate this through the entire process because data can be gleaned very easily by looking at trend analysis within the SEND package with multiple dosing, seeing if the same trends appear within a rodent species and a canine species, and also give some direction as to further studies that might be warranted before the project is moved on. If there is question that will the compound actually move forward, that may be a different decision tree of not incorporated until the end, but I think it would be prudent to incorporate that in a stepwise procedure as data is collected and that can be reviewed in phase. A last question would be, will CROs need to generate a SEND data set and a different formatted pharmacokinetic concentration formats so that the sponsors can run their pharmacokinetic analysis separately. It appears that it's not the case, that once it's in SEND, the pharmacokineticist will be able to extract that data. We would not be looking at both an Excel and a SEND data set for the groups that would be doing the interpretation. This is not a major issue, but these are questions that I think it's worth asking up front in any particular program that a laboratory would be providing data in a timely fashion. With that said, again, my name is Gene Ray. Thank you for your interest in KCAS. If you would like to find out more about the SEND policies and our recommendation, please use the form on the website to start a conversation with us. Thanks so much.